How's everybody doing today? Surviving?
The like 5 minutes of sunshine today were kind of nice, but you know.
Well, I've been in meetings since I think 9 a.m. pretty much. Like I had a little bit of a break. It's been a long day. So I had pretty much just seen the glow from my computer today. Yeah, that's been my face all day. We'll start out with any questions, anything you all want to discuss or talk about. Let's start there. I will take your silence as no questions.
I have loads of questions. I just can't formulate a coherent sentence at the moment, so.
Well, if at any point you do have questions, feel free to interrupt me. Like I said last time, we are kind of starting on the downswing of the material, so hopefully it gets a little bit easier here on out. I feel like the polynomial regression is kind of the hardest part we do, and so things are good. We're going to see stuff that's, I think, just a little bit more conceptual, terminology, things like that. All right, so last time, and before I forget, just as a reminder, please do not forget, we do not have class next week. Our university, no classes on Tuesday. If you have not already, please go vote. If you're in town, I voted last week sometime. It was super easy. I walked in my polling place. I was in there for less than 5 minutes and I walked on out. So I would suggest, if you can, go before next Tuesday. So that way, you're beating any rush that might be on Tuesday. All right, so last week, I should say, in the lectures, we looked at residual analysis, and that was to help us check our assumptions. And most of that should have looked pretty familiar. We talked about some of that all the way back in module 3. And so the things that we talked about were pretty similar. We just extended them to multiple linear regression. And then we also talked about how to find outliers or leverage points. And then once we identified points that were outliers or had high leverage, we talked about whether or not those values were influential. And by influential, what we mean is, would the removal of them make a large change in our results? And so we had that example in the 10.3 notes where we started out with one data set, and then we added in a 21st data point and we changed it 3 different times. And we saw one time it was an outlier, but it wasn't influential. One time it had high leverage, but it wasn't influential. And then the last time we saw, hey, it's all of these things. This point is making a big difference in our regression analysis. And I really want to emphasize this idea that I don't know how many times I've been asked, helping people with data, and they'll have an outlier and they'll say, well, can we just remove it? And the answer is no, you can't just remove it. I realize that it makes things look nasty and it might not be the most desirable thing, but we have to remember that sometimes those outliers really do reflect a part of the population. And so we want to make sure that we're not missing an important part of the analysis. And so how you handle that, you have to do it in a reasonable way. If it's an obvious mistake, then yeah, you can take it out, but document that you did so. Always document anything you do. If you're curious to see what does the analysis looks like without this point, you can run that, but make sure you state, I wanted to see what the analysis looked like without this outlier. You can't just forget that it was there. And again, you want to, comment on the fact of, by this removal, I might be missing an important piece of information. So it's all about documentation and doing reasonable things. So in terms of the lab and the code, I didn't include any code this week on the residual analysis because, one, you all have seen most of this already, especially in terms of SAS. SAS gives you all of that automatically with the code. And then back in module 3, we saw how to do most of that in R. The one thing that we really haven't seen is how to use R to find outliers or help us identify outliers and influential points. So if you'll go ahead and access the lab for this week, and I'm going to pull it up as well. All right.
What number lab would this be?
We are in week 11.1, believe it or not. Fingers crossed I haven't forgot to post anything. here. And leverage points. All right, perfect. So essentially what we are going to do is that example from module 10.3 where we had those 4 different data sets and we found those different values to help us determine if we had outliers, high leverage points, or influential points. We saw all of the output from SAS. We're going to run that exact same example, but we're going to do it in R this time. So it's a fairly short lab. I don't think this one is going to take us the whole time. So I'm going to go ahead and let you get started on that. To make sure that your values you're getting are what you would expect, I would suggest going ahead and opening up that module 10.3 set of notes, because that output that's in the notes from SAS, you're going to be getting the exact same values in R. So that's a way for you to easily check whether or not you're getting the output that you should be getting. So I'm going to go ahead and let you all get started on that. I'm going to sit back as usual. If there are other questions you all have or questions that you have, stuff you want to talk about, just let me know. But again, I think this lab should be pretty laid back.
I kind of already did this earlier, just kind of serendipitously. One thing with the data sets, everyone. If I can, I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen really fast. So one of the issues I ran into when trying to load these data sets in is you need to specify these 2 bits in your so first of all, the data is in CSV, so it has to be converted, and then these 2 bits need to be specified, because if is the data straight from that website?
No, I converted over to a CSV. I didn't have to do that on my end.
Okay. So never mind, because I downloaded the data straight from that website. But
oh no, I already did this part. So you should be able, if you use the data sets that are on Canvas, you shouldn't have to do that step.
never mind.
But if you have trouble, let me know. And maybe I'm wrong, but you should be able to read those directly from the files that are on Canvas.
I was able to read it in just fine. I did it right before class started and didn't have any issues.
Stuff gets in the guts of.
Oh, I do want to remind you all, if you haven't been looking at the syllabus, don't forget that the full class schedule is posted in the syllabus. Next week is your last mini project. I haven't written it yet. I'm still deciding what I want to put in it, but since we're not having class next week, I am going to try. So the last 2, I intentionally left the directions somewhat vague because I wanted you all making choices and really immersing with the content. This one, I don't think I'm going to do that as much just because we're not meeting next week, but I do want to remind you, just because we're not meeting next week won't mean that there won't be work. So do make sure that you get in there, you look at that assignment, and since it is a mini project week, I won't do additional lectures. You're going to have the whole week for the mini project, but you are going to want to work on that assignment during that time. And then as always, if you have any questions, I'll be available via email, or if you need to meet via Zoom, just let me know. But I did want to make sure that, even though we're not having class, to make sure, check the material, because school is in session all the other days.
I have a question. Do you think that we're going to get feedback from mini project 2 before mini project 3? Like, we have to start working on that?
Yeah, no. I'm going to try to get those graded this week, so you'll have that. But this project, what I'm thinking is going to be pretty different. So my goal is to have you that feedback by the end of the week anyways. But even if I didn't, I don't think that feedback will have an impact on the next mini project, if that makes sense. Because I think for the next mini project, I was thinking about this. I don't think I'm going to have you all write a methods and a results section like the last two. I think I won't say what I'm going to do because I haven't decided yet. But point being, I don't think the feedback will have a large impact on the next one, if that makes sense. But I'm going to try to have you that feedback in the next couple of days anyways.
Thank you.
Regardless, does it make a difference to do it kind of the way that you specified in the lab or to do it this way? So like this is just for the first one. I mean, it gives you all of this stuff.
It shouldn't make a difference, but make sure that you're getting the same values. Now that is, okay, you got your DF fit in there. Yeah, the only thing you're missing there is the standardized residual, I think. I think that's the only one you're missing because you got your HIs, your Cook's D. Yeah, so the only thing I think you're missing there is your standardized residual. Do you mind to go back up top? Is this just putting these in a loop or is this using that package?
No, this is a base R call, influence.measures. This is a base R function. It's nothing fancy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think the reason I didn't use that one is because it doesn't have the standardized residual in it. If I remember right, because I remember looking at that one. Unless, can you call that in the influence function?
I think so. Let me see.
I remember looking at this and there was some reason that you use it.
There's R student. Is that the same thing?
No, that's why I didn't use this one. So this gets really confusing. So there is a difference between the standardized residual and the studentized residual. And I've got the difference in the notes. The problem is that what we call those things is not standard across the board, if that makes sense. So a lot of people will call, okay, so what I have in the notes labeled as the standardized residual, some documentation will call them the studentized residual, and SAS is one of them. So that's why in the SAS output, even though it says student residual, that's actually a standardized residual. And then what this creates, that studentized residual, I think is the actual studentized residual. So it gets confusing. So this is one reason it's so important that when we use output, especially when it comes to these different diagnostics, it is always a good idea to just check the documentation and the formula to make sure it's calculating what you think it is calculating. We never just want to blindly follow from what the software gives us. And this is an excellent example of that. And it's just because, and it's not an issue with SAS. It really is, for whatever reason, people just cannot agree on what the actual names for these things are. And so you can see several instances of documentation where what I call the standardized residual, some people will call that the studentized residual, even though the studentized residual is commonly calculated a different way. It's an unfortunate, confusing difference in the name. And so it can make a big difference in, what you're looking at. And they will be, I should say, as far as the actual values you will get from the standardized versus the studentized, they are close in value, but there is a difference in how they're calculated.
Okay, I have a question just for clarification purposes. Hold on, I'm just gonna share my screen just so that I know what everything means. So for this section here, for step 4, is this what's calling, like what is outliers?
Yeah.
Is this the code and then this is what you're calling, or?
Yeah, so let me
I
back
guess that's my question, is just to understand.
Yeah, before we talk about this one, let me back up just a little bit and give you a different example, and then it'll make this.
Okay.
So do
Okay.
you remember like when we would call a data set? So in
Yeah.
this data set, if let's say I had a variable in there and the variable in that data set was height, I could call the name of the data set $height.
Height.
It would give me the height variable.
Right.
Right. What this is doing is this is that first line where I say outliers equals data 1. I'm just setting outliers equal to the data.
Okay.
And what I'm doing is I'm telling R, okay, I want you to make a new column in the data set, and I want you to call it std underscore res, whatever. So that essentially what it's doing is in the outliers data set, I want you to make a new column. I want you to call it this, and this is what's going to be in this column. So if you just run those first 2 lines of or actually, let's do this. Let's just run the first line.
Here.
Yeah, just that outliers equals data 1. Oh, I think it froze up. Yeah, just that first line. Okay.
Okay.
Now down in your console, let's look and see what outliers looks like. So just type outliers down there and hit enter. Oh, no, no open close parentheses. Oh yeah, I don't know what it was doing there. Yeah, just the word outliers.
I spelled outliers wrong. Hello. Let's just try again. Okay.
So if you scroll up to the top, you'll see really all we've got here is our data set. We've got our X and Y, right? So
right.
Now, run that second line of code. And now do the same thing. Go down to the console and type in outliers, and let's now see what that object outliers looks like. Okay.
Okay.
See, it added in a new column. It named it standardized residual, and it's got all the standardized residuals there.
Gotcha. Okay, that totally makes sense. And so then once you did this, all of this, then you called outliers again, which is what brought you the whole set.
Exactly. And so this is essentially recreating the exact same output that you all saw from SAS.
Okay. Okay, that totally makes sense. I was just thinking like, okay, if I were to do this on my own, like what means what kind of thing.
So
okay, perfect.
The opposite, where we would use the $sign to call a column before, you can also use the $sign to tell R you're going to create a column and you tell it what to put in that column.
Got it. Got it. Perfect. And then this, just because you all were talking, so I just kind of went on while I was waiting for this. Is this something that we would need to do every time we use this function, or is this truly like a one-time only thing?
It's just the install.packages is one time only.
Okay.
That install packages, you do it one time, and essentially it puts, so you have a place on your computer where R stores all of its packages. And the first time you run that, it's telling R to install that package on that spot on your computer, essentially. Now, second line, the library line, you will need to run that. Like if you were to close everything down and reopen this file, you would have to run the library line again. So that's telling go to that place on your computer where I know you've got this file and go ahead and pull it up so I can use it.
Got it. Okay, perfect. That makes sense.
So you can think of using, I guess, a library analogy. You can think of install package is you went to the store and you bought the book and you put it in your personal library. And the library says, hey, go pull this book off the shelf so we can use it.
Use it. Perfect. Okay, no, that totally makes sense. Thank you for that clarification.
Oh, and just because I like to tell you all fun things that I find around town to do, I can't remember if I told you all this one or not, but McConnell Springs is having I don't know if I really want to call it hiking because it's a fairly easy walk, but they're having a jack-o'-lantern trail, and like you reserve spots so it's socially distanced and it's all outdoors. And I think it's going on most of the week. So you reserve a spot and you just go walk around and you see a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns that people made. And that's right in the middle of town if you've never been to McConnell Springs. If you ever just need to get some nature, but you don't have a lot of time, McConnell Springs is like right in the middle of town.
I have a question. I keep getting an error when I'm trying to install the OLSRR package.
Yeah, do you mind to bring up your screen for me?
Yes. So I keep getting like an error right here.
Yeah, it has to do, I think it's the, did you copy and paste this from the document?
Yes.
I think it's a copy and paste with the quotations. Do me a favor,
Okay.
read out the quotations and just type them back in. That is I think it's just an encoding issue. Oh, sorry. You still have to put that in quotations, just retype them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for some reason, quotations sometimes get, I don't know how better way, it's what's called an encoding issue. It's basically how R reads characters versus how like a PDF reads characters. And every once in a while when you copy and paste stuff over, like it just doesn't read it the same. And quotations are a common place that happens.
Okay. It still says error.
Oh, that's weird.
I'm getting the same error too.
Huh. Let's try this.
Right here, it says like, do you want to install from sources? And it says yes, no, cancel. Do I need to like type in yes somewhere?
No, let's try another way. There's another way to get packages. Go up. Are you on a Mac?
Yes.
Okay, I get every once in a while, some of the packages don't play well with a Mac. Go up to the top for me, like at the top bar where you've got your, oh, where is it at on a Mac? Give me a second here. You want to find the tools up at the top. I think it's going to be one of those 3 gray dots. Yeah, there we go. So click on install packages for me. And then type in the name of the package. Yeah, select it and click install. This is probably just going to give the same error, but every once in a while this will work instead. Okay, so type in yes for me.
Oh.
Yeah, before I wasn't sure if you'd have to do this, but it looks like we do.
I'm not sure what it's doing.
Oh, it's installing it. This is
Oh, okay.
yeah, for larger packages sometimes this is exactly what it should be doing.
The red scared me for a second.
No, that's just the color scheme that you have to don't worry about. It's not bad.
Normally red is bad, so
Yeah.
No.
anytime, like SAS or any of these, you're like, red, something has gone wrong.
The color scheme that I use on my like computer, the one that I normally run on, I don't think that color scheme has any red in it whatsoever, which is a good and a bad thing because, you know, usually I just think everything's fine.
Should I try running it again?
Give it a minute. It's just being slow.
Oh, okay.
I think it's just a big package.
Oh, okay.
Once you see like, yeah, there we go. Now you can run the library one. Okay. Huh. So no package. So see how it says that open XLSX? It's saying that you don't have that package. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing we just did, but let's look for that package.
Okay.
and then click yes again.
There's a better way, actually, I think.
Is there, try running the library line again. A non-zero exit status. Oh, it looked like it failed. Yeah, I don't, go ahead, sorry.
Run install packages in the console. Don't run it in the script.
Oh, I didn't realize that would make a difference.
I think so, but also in Manasa for you, after you type so it's install packages OLSRR, then add a comma, and then type dependencies equals true.
Right here.
I see what
That should install all of the other kind of subordinates that it needs to run correctly. No, not in the library. After install packages. But again, put that in take that out of your script and put that in your console.
Yeah, so just copy that line.
This one?
Yes.
And then we're going to paste it into the window down below.
Cut it out of there because it may give you problems. Just delete it.
And then, so before you hit enter, after the second quotation,
Put comma.
and then dependencies, the plural. Yeah, there you go. I got it for you.
And then true.
True in caps.
Yeah, there you go. And then close your parenthesis. Yeah, try that. Do that the red thing again.
Yeah.
Oh, so I think the reason why it's installing so many dependencies is because OLSRR relies on ggplot, and ggplot is packaged up in the tidyverse. So for this package to run correctly, it needs the tidyverse installed. So that's what it's doing right now.
And that would make sense because I didn't have to do any of this, and I didn't even think about that because I already had those installed on my computer.
Oh, yeah.
So for everyone else, if you run the same line of code that Manasa just ran, everything should take care of itself. Yeah, all that stuff is tidyverse.
I will say, and once we get to where we can run these plots, it's nice because it makes all your residual plots without having to do any of the ggplot commands. Perfect. So try that library line now.
Really?
I got the same one. Give me just a second. Let me see.
Okay.
How long has it been since you updated your R? That could be the other issue.
I got it installed last semester for your class, and I don't think I've updated since then.
That might be. Let me see.
Yeah, I got, like, when I installed it, I got an error warning saying that this was built under R version 4. So that may be why.
Yeah, so let's try updating your R. Give me just a second. I'll tell you the easiest way to do that. We can actually just do that straight from where you are now.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to type it in. Sorry, I'm meeting on you all. I'm going to type this in the chat. There's 3 lines of code.
Okay.
Oh, apparently if this doesn't work, there's another one that's just for Mac, which I didn't even know about, but this one should. And you can just, when you copy these from the chat, just run them down in the console. You don't need to have the lab file, yeah, because we're just gonna do this one time and then you won't have to do it again. Just run yeah, you just want to do one line at a time though.
Mine's still running that first thing that you told us to do. Should I stop it and do this since I was having the same issues, or should I wait?
Yeah, let's go ahead and stop it.
Okay.
Yeah, so those aren't gonna run. So I think it's because your R version is older. So give me another way to do this. Give me just a second. Oh, okay. So wait, that was for Windows only. Sorry, I didn't realize in Mac there's a separate line. Okay.
Oh, it's so complicated.
I know. Give me just a second. I'm going to type, there's 5 lines of code. So you're going to run these one at a time. And so this is, for anyone that's on Windows, you can use the 3 lines that are previously in the chat. If you're on a Mac, you're going to want to use these. All right, so that's the first one. So try that line.
This is Lauren. I didn't have to do any of this. It just prompted me to install it, and I said yes.
So Lauren,
And I've had no issues so far.
your version of R is probably newer, and that's probably why. So what we're doing now is we're actually update R, and then I think once it's updated, it should run fine.
Thank you. Just making sure I hadn't blown it up beyond repair.
No, you're good. So I'm making sure I spell this right. This is a package that somebody wrote to do this on a Mac.
Gotcha.
And I'm hoping I spelled that right. All right, and then there's the next line. Okay, now this last line of code, I'm going to have you unshare your screen to run this one, because in those quotations, you're going to have to give your Mac password.
Okay.
And then if that doesn't work, let me know. But fingers crossed it will. There's another way that we can do it too. So if that doesn't work, not a big deal, but if we can do it from our studio, it just makes it easier. And then Elizabeth, who else was it? Was Elizabeth, were you also having trouble?
Yeah, mine's just taking forever and 10 years even just to do the first step. I realized that it was like, is it connecting to the internet, I am assuming?
It is.
Okay, our internet drives me up the wall. It just when it wants to work and it decides when it doesn't want to work really slow a lot of the time. So it's just taking forever.
Well, once you get any trouble, let me know.
Okay.
Line of code run with the update our admin password?
I don't know if it's an error on my part, but it says unused argument.
Hold on, let me make sure I may have spelled something wrong. I mean, you can just try taking the admin password out of the inside the parentheses and see what it says.
Okay, and just like my password.
Yeah, well, don't put anything in there. Just leave the parentheses empty. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, if you don't have your Mac password protected, it probably doesn't need it. But that's weird that it didn't. So you would just run this.
Yeah, when I did the update R with just the empty parentheses, then it prompted me to type in my password after that.
Oh, okay, perfect.
And it says installing, please wait right now.
Okay.
Now it
Can I
says,
ask a,
oh, go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead. No, mine was completely related to work.
Okay.
So I was going to ask a question, so you go for it.
Okay. I guess I can share my screen again. It says like, this is a major update. Choose one of the following options to restore your packages.
Okay.
And then it says reinstall all the packages.
Sure. I'm gonna say yes. I don't think it's actually a difference. We'll go with one. Because my guess is because if you're mainly just using R for this class, I mean, you're mainly just going to have the basic.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to make much of a difference.
Okay. It won't like let me type 1R, or when I press enter, it just keeps.
Maybe.
Like my cursor's like right here, but when I press enter, it just. And when I click, it's not.
Yeah,
Maybe.
it won't let you.
Maybe just put one where your cursor is. Maybe that's where it's prompting it to put that. Yeah.
Try just running that line of code. Did you, so as it was running, when it got to that place, did you click anywhere else, or was that just where the cursor ended up? Does that
That's just where the cursor ended up.
strange? All right, well, I hate to show.
Well, my cursor's down here. Should I try one again, like down here now?
It's done. So you see how it's got like the little, that little caret that points to the right? Once you see that, then it's done running whatever it was running before. So, let me hold on just a second, because I don't think it updated, but let's just in case. Give me just a second.
I'm so sorry for making this so complicated.
Yeah, no, don't be sorry. Do me a favor. Go up to the top and go to Tools. And go to Global Options down at the bottom. And that's weird. Click on the general there. Oh, yours looks different than mine. Why does yours look different? Oh, that's strange. So like on mine, the very first thing I have at the top is it tells me what R version I'm using. And for some reason, yours doesn't do that.
I think it says in ours, if you go to R Studio, about R Studio, the left-hand corner.
Oh, okay.
I think that's where it says. I don't know if I was looking for it, but.
See you, Amanda. Have a great day. No, okay, so that's just the R Studio. So, so you have R.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Which is like the GUI that we work in, but R is, what runs underneath. I don't know why.
Right.
Okay for me. Oh, sorry, go ahead and click OK. And then hit cancel. Go back
I
up.
opened up my R, like the R console, like that's stored separately on the computer, and it says R 3.6.2 GUI. Is that what you're looking for?
That's exactly. So you're still on the old version as well. All right. So
Okay.
if you don't mind to stop sharing your screen, I'm going to show you the way that I know for sure will, will update your R. It's
Okay.
basically just to go and re-download it,
Okay.
which I know isn't the most fun in the world, but I know that for sure this will work. I was hoping to find, a nice workaround there, but so if you can see my screen, basically how you install this the very first time you installed R is what you're going to want to do. So you'll just go to the rproject.org. And then, so see, currently we're on version 4.0.3. That's what I think the issue is.
Oh, okay.
So if you go to CRAN, it's got all the downloads. Remember, it doesn't remember which one of these you pick. I usually just pick the first one in the United States.
Uh-huh.
And then you'll want to download R for the Mac.
Okay.
And then just reinstall it basically.
Okay.
And then let me know if that doesn't work. But that's probably going to be the best way.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I just want to make sure we get this working for you, because I don't know if you saw in the chat, like Amanda said, the last one to go super quick. We're just hung up here.
Yes,
I'll
I'll download it now.
I'll just chime in here with me diving down a rabbit hole. So just because I was curious, ggplot is capable of plotting a smoothing geom using linear regression for so it'll do it for you, but because ggplot isn't meant to kind of calculate the model, it's not meant, it's very hard to pull that model out. It's out of the geom smooth call. So like here. So like the geom smooth call is, so like in order to get the actual X and Y values out of the linear regression model, it's this.
Oh, that makes sense.
Point being is, I know this is really hard to see, but because they're one on top of the other, the blue line is what the geom smooth gives you, and the red line, I know it's really hard to see, is what the actual model gives you. So they're the same.
The one thing to notice there is that GLM smooth, and this is true of anything you use that's smoothing, notice that it's not a perfect linear line. Like, it was a little bumpy. Whereas if you use the perfect linear line, it'll be completely straight.
I think that has more to do with like maybe my rendering. I don't know.
I think it's the smooth function, because smooth functions in general won't create perfect linear lines because they're smoothing, essentially. I mean, that's what that is. It's the same thing as like when we do density plots. I could plot a normal and it's that perfect smooth, like bell-shaped normal. But if you do the same thing using smooth, it's going to be just a little bumpy. And it has to do with how it's actually creating that line. Because it's not using a nice like mathematic formula. It really is using, what's called smoothing. So I think, because try plotting the red one just by itself, and I bet the red, because the red one was the one, wait, the blue, the one with the smoothing, they're both done with smoothing, right?
No. Blue is the one done with smoothing. Red is the one kind of hacked out of the model itself.
Look at the red one by itself, and my guess is the red one is very crisp and straight, whereas the blue is not. Like, it's a minor deviation. Yeah, see how straight that is?
Okay. Oh, man.
It's because this is actually using like that mathematical formula to create the dots, whereas the smoothing is doing something slightly different.
Oh, man.
But I mean, it's the same idea.
Yeah. Just because I'm like.
Hey Amanda, it's Lauren again.
How's it going?
The last part of the lab says create visualizations. Is that just for our use, or would you like us to include that in what we turn in?
Yeah, let me double check what I intended there. I'm pulling up the lab right now. Where did it go? Probably help if I was, looking at the right file here. I think I just wanted you. Yeah, so for the create the visualizations, it's basically under the step before in step 5 where it has visualize the criteria. I just wanted you to do that for the new models. So for example, like you're gonna have like a model 2 that's from data set 2. So you just rerun those for your model 2. Does that make sense?
Okay, but we don't need to like print those to PDF to turn them in. We can just
Oh,
use
no,
that for our own personal knowledge.
No, just run the code or just have the lines of code in there. You don't need to like include those plots separate.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How's the R updating go?
It's going. I realized I didn't need to delete our studio as well. And I deleted that, so I'm having to download that as well.
Gotcha.
Mine just finished updating and going back in to see if it works.
Okay. Fingers crossed. All right, Lauren, I just saw your message. If you need me, email me.
Okay, I just have a random question while we're waiting for this. Has nothing to do with this class, but for another class. So for your class last year, we used the BRFS data.
Yeah.
So for another class, wanting to use the YRBS data, like the youth version of that, is there a way to like publicly access that data? Like I guess my question is like, how did we last time? I've like found the code book and everything, but I was like having a trying to figure out how to access our data.
Yeah, so let me see if I can find it for you. So just
Okay.
easier on you all, last semester, that is all public. The BRFS anyways is all publicly available, and you can download that, but they automatically do it in, for some reason I think I had to convert it to a CSV. So they write everything, so it's really easy to transfer everything over to SAS, but where I was given
Okay. Yeah.
the option to use SAS or R, I converted it to a CSV just for the purposes of
Okay.
the easier between the two. Now, but the youth version, I am not as familiar with, but give me a second. I'll see if I can find it.
Okay.
And what
Because
was,
I was looking at go ahead.
sorry, what was the abbreviation? It was the YR?
I think it was YR. Hold on, let me look at it. I think so. It was like pretty much almost cool.
I found it.
IBSS. Yeah. We're
Okay.
trying to compare that to another data set and see if it's the best to use, but I just didn't know how to access the actual data.
Yeah, so I just sent you a link. I'm going to pull it up here as well so you can see it.
Okay.
So that
I'm
link,
new to finding my own, like never know what I'm supposed to be looking for.
yeah. So that if you go to that link, I think all the data is here. So
Okay.
it depends on, let's see, so combined data sets and documentation. So they actually already have the SAS programs written for you. So what that is for, do you remember last semester how I talked about the weighting, but I didn't actually have you all do the data weighting?
Yeah.
So they actually have the programs for you to do the weighting if you're using SAS, if it's like the BRFSS. And so that is all there in those programs. Now for the data, I think this is what you're going to want here. And so they've got, are you doing it at a state level or a national level?
Probably a state level, but we hadn't decided yet.
Okay.
But probably a state level.
It looks like they've got, let's just click on A through M states. Yeah, okay. So, oh, it's taking a minute to download. Let's see what this gives us.
Okay.
My internet's been really slow lately. So this might,
Same.
it might take a minute. Yeah, I got like an adapter to put on my computer to boost the signal because it was getting so bad that I kept on losing all my Zoom calls, and I was like, that's not good.
Yeah. We have MetroNet now here, and if all are on it, like we don't know if it's Met or if it's like our house says it has signal, but I'm internet's unstable. Everything takes forever.
If you're using the Wi-Fi at your house, the adapter that I got, I think it was maybe $30 on Amazon, and it has made a pretty big difference. Especially my
Really?
yeah, like my laptop, like where I sit in my office is pretty far away from my router, and I think that's part of the issue. And getting the adapter has helped quite a bit. I like, for example, so I'll do, if you go to like speedtest.net without the adapter, it was abysmal. It was so slow. And then when I put the adapter in, it was 5-6 times faster at least.
Oh, wow.
I don't know
Oh, okay, I'll have to look into that.
but it might be worth trying.
Yeah. Oh, I'll look into that. Thanks for that.
Yeah, sorry, it's still downloading.
No, mine's still updating, so it's okay.
You know.
I'm just sitting there.
You can help me after you download the data set for Elizabeth and stuff. But mine still says error, and like it still says like there's no package called OpenXLSX, and then I went back to tools and I tried installing that package again, but it's still saying that.
Do you mind to I stopped sharing the screen. Do you mind to share your screen? Okay, do me a favor. I just want to make sure that it, oh, sorry, just a second here. I just want to make sure that it did update correctly. Do me a favor. I'm going to put something in the chat. Just run that line of code for me. I just want to see what it comes up with. So that's good.
Dr. Ellis, when you get done, I might need your help because I think I've coded myself into a hole here.
All right, try doing, now when you ran the install.packages, did you run it down the console where you did the comma dependencies equals true?
No.
Let's just try that again.
quick question. How long does it usually take to install? I'm reinstalling my R as well. It's just taking a very long time.
Depends on your internet connection. It usually shouldn't take very long, but if your internet's running slow, it might take a few minutes.
Okay, yeah, I'm at work and my computer's already logged off like twice of the Zoom meeting, so it's pretty crappy.
Oh yeah, that's why it's taken it a while. All right, yeah, now try that library statement. Okay. Give me just a second. I'm gonna see if I can see if anybody else is having this trouble or this problem online. Let's go back and try to install that open XLX package again. If you just go back up to the top to.
I just did that actually while you were looking on the computer.
Oh, sorry. What error did it give you?
I haven't tried to run it again after I installed that package.
Okay.
Still saying that.
I'm getting the same error too.
Scroll up just a little bit for me and let me read that. Okay. Oh, too far, sorry. Do you want to install? Sorry. All right, keep that just there for just a second.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so apparently this is a Mac error, and I'm going to tell you all how to fix it. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to fix it. I'm back. The internet is
I suddenly got a message that said, "You're now the host." Oh no, she's left.
you're in charge now. Take over.
I don't feel bit confident about that.
Okay, so yeah, I'm trying to figure out the best way to fix this. Sorry, I figured out what the problem is.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out the best way to fix it. Yeah, apparently if it makes you all feel better, that this is a rare glitch that occurs in Crayon. And what it's saying is it's going to take a bit for all the mirrors to catch up. So what that means, okay, let's try this. I'm going to type another thing in the chat. Okay, so what I want to do. And then we were trying to get, what was the name of that? It was Open XL, thank you. SX, is that right? And then apparently from what I'm reading is it's having trouble figuring out what the right repository is maybe. Try running that line of code for me.
Do we run it in the console or in the script?
In the and actually hold off just a second.
Oh.
Actually, yeah, no, try running that and see what that.
Okay, I think that installed.
No, see where it says it had non-zero exit status? That means it failed. Sorry, I'm still reading. All right, let me try. Well, we're gonna try one more thing here. All right, do you know how to open up the terminal on your Mac? Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I'm not sure.
So I think on your Finder, if you just type in terminal, it'll pop it up for you. And then you're still, it's still showing your R screen. I don't know if you're, yeah. All right, so
I'm trying to find.
yeah, I always forget where this is. If you just go to the search up at the top and search for terminal. Actually, is this your finder? Like if you go to the finder in the bottom left of your Mac screen, yeah, and type in terminal, or is that the finder?
Yeah, this is the finder.
It is.
I
Okay.
typed in up in the magnifying glass on the right hand corner. I typed in finder there and terminal popped up.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Or I typed in terminal there and it popped up. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, click on the terminal. All right, and now, oh, sorry, where did it go? Okay, type in $. Or actually, is there already a $sign there? Sorry, my screen is so tiny. Okay, so you don't need $2 if the first one's there. And then I'll type in the letter X and the word code.
It won't let me go down to the next line.
I just typed it right next to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Oh,
an
what-
X and code. And, okay, space, dash, select, space.
What was that?
Oh, sorry, space,
Oh, space.
2 dashes, and the word install. And click there. Try putting, try typing that same thing, but try putting an extra $sign in front of Xcode. Is it still not finding it? What is it saying it can't find? Weird. Sorry, my screen, I have to get like really close to see it. Select install. Just a second. All right, I think we have tried long and hard. The important part about the lab is that you could get the values, and you could get the values, right? Just not the visualizations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like when we made it the first time, we were able to get our values.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah.
So then for you all, for this lab, where the spot where there's the visualization, just type, there's an issue with Max. Amanda said, I don't have to do this part.
Okay.
So what it is there is a problem with Max, and essentially what is happening is when it goes, basically what's happening is when it goes to CRAN to get the package, your Mac is getting confused and it's thinking that it doesn't actually have the permission to install all of them when it does. And so I found, I mean, it's not you all. There are lots of things I'm finding online how to fix it, but I think you actually have to go into the Mac and change settings is what is happening. And in all honesty, it's not worth it for this. Now, if you all end up using R for another class, I will go ahead and warn you, it's not just this package. The dplyr package, which is another really common one, I think might have the same issue. So for this lab, it's not that important, but if you all are having to use this another time and this comes up, let me know and I will figure out how to get into it and fix it, if that makes sense. Not
Okay.
worth going through it for this lab, but it might be worth it if you need it for another class. So if it happens again, you know what I'm saying, just let me know and we'll figure out how to get in there and fix it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank
You're
you so
welcome. I'm
much.
sorry I couldn't get that fixed, but yeah, it does look like it's a common problem with Mac.
Okay.
I'm just glad it wasn't on our end, and it.
No. It's definitely not you all. It's something to do. Like I said, I'm seeing like on Stack Exchange and on GitHub, I'm seeing lots of people reference this same issue.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it also looks like, has it been a while since you all have updated your Macs?
I think I updated mine last month.
Okay. So some people were saying when they updated a High Sierra, but now this has been, the High Sierra is old. Like I'm seeing this problem like 2 years ago, people were having this as well. I think it's like an ongoing problem. And I'll be honest with you, that is one thing I see a lot with Macs is when a Mac first does its update, or like if our updates, it seems like there's a little bit of a lag sometimes and you'll see some crazy issues that occur.
Gotcha.
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready for your rabbit hole.
Okay. Is this what we needed for? Hold on. Okay. So all of this jazz essentially boils down into producing firstly, come on, don't do this to me. Is there any way to suppress the output from OLSRR? So anyway, because this is gonna, all right. So praying my computer doesn't crash. Oh, come on. Okay, good. So hold on, it's being really, really slow.
Oh no, you're good. I'm pulling up the code on my end because I can't remember what the
So this is the comparison plot, I think.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't figure out how to get like individual legends in each thing to say like, okay, red and blue. So I'm just in the title. I'm saying like the red line is from.
Yeah, no, I think that looks really nice. And you can really see looking at this comparison why we're concerned with data set 4, but we're not that concerned with data set 2 and 3.
Yeah. And then the other sort of bit for this is, hold on, is this thing. Right?
Yes. So what you've got here, so going across the rows, you've got your 4 different data sets, and then going across the columns, your different diagnostics.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you can see the only problem with putting, sorry, I don't know if I'm too close to that, getting them in the grid is you do, so for example, that one in the bottom right-hand corner, I think that one's a little bit harder to see just because you know where it's smushed in the grid, but you still get the same idea here. Now, one thing to notice, and this goes back to what I was talking about, you know, in terms of what criteria you're using, why it's so important to say that and what cutoff values you're using, you'll notice that by default, this uses, for the standardized residuals, it uses a cutoff of 2 to say whether or not something is an outlier, whereas we use the cutoff of 3. In all honesty, there's not much difference between a cutoff of 2 and a cutoff of 3. But it's all about keeping in mind where those come from is from the empirical rule. So the empirical rule says that 95% of the data points should be within 2 standard deviations. Notice here, we've got 20 data points, right?
Yeah.
We've got 20 data points. I expect 5% to be outside of 2. So that would be 1 data point. So even though that 1 data point does cross the 2, I'm not going to classify that as an outlier. And that goes back to that idea of critically thinking about where the cutoffs are coming from, how we're talking about them, instead of just blindly going with that cutoff of 2. So keeping that in mind, I'm not worried about that one that crosses over too. Now,
For
if you
data
have one
for the
that
second data set, this one, that one here, because it's like this one here, because it's barely over the line.
Well, so that's for the leverage. I'm actually talking about in the standardized residuals.
Yeah.
So if you go all the way over the left.
Yeah. So I'm saying this here. I don't know if you can see me circling it with my mouse.
Oh, now I can. It was, for some reason, I think there was a delay. Exactly. So now this one, notice that here we actually have 3 that are crossing, and we see
Yeah.
the one that crosses the most is 21. So 21 probably is an outlier here. Now, if I remember right, it just barely crosses. It hits 3, but it's just barely over 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, like, from like a practical standpoint, would you ever produce like a graphic like this for publication, or would you use like the sort of individual plots internally? Because OLSRR just kind of crimps on ggplot and it spits out GGR.
This is never going in a publication for me.
Okay.
Now, and this is actually what I'm thinking about having you all do for your next mini project. This is one of the real, I think this is a true issue when it comes to data analysis.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to put this in a publication. And we are so focused on publications, if things don't go into the publication, I think people overlook them a lot. But checking these, I mean, is so crucial, because this is checking your assumptions, and this is actually saying whether or not your results are valid. I mean, if you severely violate your assumptions, the results that you came up with might not even be valid. So it's such an important part that we check these things, but it never makes it into the publication. And so I think because of that, what has happened over time is people are misusing regression left and right, because they're not checking their assumptions. I have a collaborator that I work with, and she flat out told me, I mean, she works in psychology, and she uses hierarchical modeling all the time. And she's like, I have never checked assumptions. She's like, I have never had anyone that I work with that I know checks assumptions. And all their assumptions are violated, but they're running with, these results. So one of the things that I am hoping to see in the future, and this is starting to happen, in the past, it used to be, when we think of publications were, actually like physically published, and you couldn't put extra stuff with them. Well, now with things like the open science framework and now that articles are digitally stored, we can add in extra supplemental material, and it's easy to do. So my hope is, in the future, I don't think this stuff needs to be in the actual article, but I would love to see it commonplace in the supplemental material to say, hey, here's how we checked all the assumptions for the methods that we used. So for purposes of reproducibility and just good science, I'm hoping that in the future that starts to be more commonplace. And so that's actually what I'm thinking about having you all do for this next mini project, is just to create a supplemental piece that you could have for an article that actually says, hey, I checked my assumptions. I feel confident that, I've used appropriate methods based on what I'm seeing in the data. And so again, this is like my little soapbox that I get on, because it is such an important thing, and I don't feel like it is done enough.
So just if we were thinking like publication type stuff, I'm assuming that like something like this could probably be tossed into a publication, or like,
yeah, exactly. That would be great. And this would be another thing, even as in supplemental material, I still wouldn't spend a ton of time on my plots like I would in the actual publication. They would be more there for informative purposes, to say, hey, look, this was actually checked, I'm not concerned about this. Or maybe, just to say, hey, I am concerned about this, but I don't know another, there is no other method that's better. That's often how statistical methods are developed.
My question with this lab is, we didn't use the outliers table for anything, did we?
What do you mean?
Like we built it, but we didn't actually use it in the code.
No, because the code is just there to build it. So it's just like how we used, so it's the same thing as how we used the output in the 10.3 notes. I'm just saying, we wanted to do the same thing in the 10.3 notes with our output instead of the past output.
I see. Yeah,
because this matches up exactly with what we did in the notes. All the values are the same.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Because then, All right, so I should. My brain is just completely fried right now.
That whole write-up that we have there in the notes, you could reproduce that write-up now using the R output instead of the SAS.
Gotcha. I still find it really strange that apparently, like, it might just from like a practice standpoint or like from like a workflow standpoint, maybe instead of using that influence measures, it may be better to just kind of specify them sort of explicitly individually, just because apparently like you said, like the influence measures thing misses some stuff.
That's why, and so much of what we do when it comes to modeling is really taking, again, like this holistic view. We don't ever just want to look at one criteria. Like, and I want to be careful when I say that. At the same time, I don't want to go on a fishing expedition. I'm not saying that word right. I don't want to go on a fishing adventure, you know, where I'm, you know, just looking at every little thing and picking the things that match what I want it to say. I definitely don't want to do that, but I do want to take a holistic view of what's going on. And it's all about being honest. That's the big thing is, you know, reproducibility, you know, and this goes in the publication bias, which is, you know, a whole nother issue. But I think we get so afraid that we're not going to get published because we didn't have this one result, you know, and really it should be about what did the data tell us? It shouldn't be about, did it tell us what we wanted to hear? Because I think that's where we really get into trouble. And I mean, we see things like this, where, you know, maybe only part of the results are reported, or, you know, what is the saying that there's lies, damn lies, and statistics?
Statistics.
I think, you know, that is part of that.
Yeah, definitely. Man. I mean, I think one of the issues, like with R in general, is like there's like 20 different ways to do the same.
Yes.
To do the same thing, like, and then like Stack Overflow, unfortunately, and the thing I really hate is like there's so much hubris with kind of the examples that they give. It's like, oh, just do X, Y, and Z, and like,
yeah,
it's just like, oh.
Yeah, anything that you can want to do, you're exactly right. There are 20 different ways to do it. And, you know, and there'll be people that argue, well, this way is the best, or this way is the best. And really at the end of the day is what you ran appropriate, and did it give you what you needed? That's the important.
See, I guess the thing that drives me up a wall is because I'm approaching this from like a programmer's perspective. So a lot of the, I guess, like verbosity and kind of redundancy almost of R kind of drives me up a wall. I mean, Python's kind of like that, and like they say in their sort of rules, like explicit is better than implicit, but like then again, you know, they say don't repeat yourself and all this other stuff. So I'm just like, I don't know. I think my brain is just shorting out.
For me, it all comes down to, you know, first thing I want to ask myself, you know, if there's something that I'm doing, is how many times do I have to do this thing? If I'm only doing this thing one time, then I don't really care about the code as long as it gets it done. You know what I'm saying? Like, does it get the output I want? Good. Now, is this something that I'm going to have to repeat 100 times? Then yeah, I want to make it to where, you know, it's more generalized, and I'm going to focus more on, does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to make the code so it's easier to repeat that process 100 times. So
Yeah.
And where am I spending my time? If I'm only doing a thing one time, I want to write that code as fast as possible to get the correct output. If I'm going to have to do it 100 times, then I want to spend more time on the coding to save me time, you know, at the end.
Definitely.
Okay, how do I've got my hand stuck in my necklace. Oh shoot, what was my question? I don't even know how that happened. That distracted me so much. Oh dear Lord.
I've got something caught in my hair. My hair, you know.
No, I don't know how that just happened. What was my question? Shoot. Oh, okay. So somehow I think that I have plotted both lines on my scatter plot, but I don't know how I've done that.
Yeah, pull up your code and let's take a look.
Okay. Like I just looked at my scatter plot and I was like, oh, wait a minute, it has 2 lines on it, but I don't know how I did that.
Yeah, it's the ab line function. So ab line is just going to add a line.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So for example,
Okay, so how does it?
No, between the two. So this is where you'll want to be careful and
Yeah.
not to reuse variables. So like up at the top, let's go up to the model 1. Oh, I think it froze.
Here.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So you've got your model 1, and then notice you go and you make your plot. And so see how when you do LM, pardon me, Y tilde X, data equals data 1. So it's going to create that line based on data 1. If
Okay.
you want to add a second line based on data 2, just change data 1 to data 2. So
Okay,
it's
so
going to pull that X and Y from that data set.
okay.
Yep.
So then,
Yeah, so on that one, if you want to have both the lines, just add a second ab line, but call data 1 instead.
but call it what? I'm sorry.
Oh, call data 1, because
Oh, okay.
data set 1.
So literally the same thing, but just call data 1.
Yep, because that way it'll call the X and the Y from the first data set, not the second data set.
Okay. So
now just run those 3 lines of code and look at the plot that comes out. Perfect. So see, now your 2 regression lines, now this part that's tricky right here is they're both the same color, right? So it's a little bit to see. So what you can do is in that ab line function, so comma after, yeah. So just do comma, and I've got I think it's just color. Do color, it's either color or COL, I can't remember. Try color equals, and then do, let's say, blue in parentheses. So the color will have to be in parentheses. Actually, I think it's just COL. Get rid of the color. Yeah. Run that. Nope. It doesn't like.
oh, I think I had one too many
Oh, sorry. It's not parentheses. Quotations around
quotes. Okay.
Quotes. That's my bad.
No.
And then be careful there at the end. It did double quotes after blue, and you want a parenthesis. One function. There you go. Try that now.
Oh, I see. Okay.
There we go.
Got it.
So see, now the one before that one, you can make that one, the other one red. And so then you have a.
Oh. Okay. So then for the next ones, we're still wanting to compare it against data 1, but data 3 and data 4.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Okay.
I'm thinking of data 1 as our baseline, because data 1 is the data set that just has 20 data points. And then for 2, 3, and 4, we're adding in a 21st data point, but we're kind of changing the position of where that 21st data point is and seeing what's happening. So for example, if you look at your scatter plot that you have now, notice if we look at our original line, which is the blue one, notice the 21st data point that we added in is that one that's way up there in the upper right hand corner. Well, we can, if we're fitting a line, that point, even though it's far away from the rest of our data, it still goes along with the overall pattern. So that's why when we fit that new line with that new data point, it didn't really change that much.
Okay, that totally makes sense.
Down to data set 4, that new point's going to be like in the bottom right hand corner, and you're going to see a big shift in the regression line.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That totally makes sense.
it's not gonna matter. I was just thinking like about plotting, say, both of the data sets kind of on the same scatter plot, but it doesn't matter because they're the same data with the addition of like one point.
Exactly. Now, what you could do is you could make that the new point 21. You could make that individual point its own color. So that way, it kind of pops out that this is our new one we're adding in the comparison.
I don't know how you would do that in ggplot though.
I think what you would do in ggplot is you would, I think the easiest way would just be add an individual point, and what would happen is when it makes the scatter plot, it's just going to basically overlay that new point on top of the one from the data set and replace it with a color. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm looking at some stuff here.
Let's see. You use the GM point. And so in that GM point call, you just specify the X value and the Y value, and then you can give it a color.
Let's see where's it here.
What the points are.
So like so then let's say,
And I can't remember, ggplot, is the argument color, is it the English or is the spelling with the U, or does it not have the U?
it understands either. It speaks both dialects.
So I just put something in the chat. I think you do something like that.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, and that should just overlay the original point from the data set. Or, well, no, because you don't want to mess with the regression line. So you need to call in the original data set or the correct data set.
Well, like this is just me messing around. I already submitted the lab.
What I was thinking is, I think ggplot will just take this blue point and set it on top of the black point, because I think it'll just see this as a new facet that lays on that. I think that'll be its own layer that lays on top, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So here I'm doing something at the moment. I will show you in just a moment.
How's it going? I haven't heard from you in a while.
It is going. Just working on the last part. And so on step 6, we're writing our own code where we have to or it says create visualizations of the criteria. We don't
put on there. Amanda said I don't have to do this.
Okay.
Amanda gave me permission.
Sounds good.
This messes up all the tabs. At least ggplot isn't like Python where it yells at you if you screw up your spaces. Trying to make all this text so you can read it. Okay, fingers crossed.
All right, I was able to successfully get everything else to work. So I'm, well, for the most part, I guess we should say. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off.
All right, have a great day.
Thanks, y'all too.
I have one question.
Yeah.
So in step 6, like where we're writing our own code, it says like create a data set with the criteria, compare the values.
Yeah.
What does it mean by like creating a data set?
Yeah, so that's actually what you did in step 4. So notice data set, data frame, same, I mean the same thing there.
Okay.
Step 4 where it says create a data frame to store the criteria, that's what you're doing there. And that data frame's name is outliers.
Okay, so we do that for like data set 2, 3, and 4.
Perfect. Yep, exactly.
All right.
So this is kind of cool.
And then sorry, real quick, the output that you're comparing with, you should get the exact same output as that output in module 10.3, that SAS output for each of them.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
They're kind of hard to see, but 1, 2, 3, the 3 outliers.
Exactly. And so it makes sense when we look at this that the blue one and the green one don't have a big effect on the regression line. They're not very influential. There's not big changes there. Green is right along with the overall pattern. And the blue one, even though it deviates away, there's not a large shift there because it is still, it's not going to have a huge effect. Whereas the red one
yeah,
shifts it away.
I just thought of something.
And so you could put all 4 of those regression lines on there. So you could do
that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
The original one in black and then the corresponding colors.
Yeah, exactly. This is also the beauty of R in the sense that once you solve a problem once, you can just copy your code. This is turning like a massively enormous ggplot call. Just a matter of finding out stuff.
I think I'm good on the lab, so I'm going to log off.
All right. Have a great day. If you need any help with anything, let me know.
Sure, thank you.
It's just their aesthetics must either be hold on, I broke it, but okay, but yeah, I think we get the idea. Cool.
Yeah, that's a great way to visualize that because you can really drive home that point that not all outliers are going to have not all outliers or high leverage points are going to have a big influence on the regression line, and that really drives home that point by seeing exactly what you're talking about.
Definitely. Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Dr. Ellis. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Get your brain some rest, okay?
Trying. So much to do.
All right. Well.
All right.
Look at this way. You just gained 45 minutes that we would normally be in class. So maybe power nap? I don't know.
True. I mean, I do have another meeting at 6, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. I'm here if you need me.
definitely. Appreciate it. Thanks. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.